Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Untangle Tech Talk series. Today we'll be discussing and demonstrating one of our applications, the application control. And John, our Director of QA, will be taking us through it as well as giving a demonstration on how to set this up correctly and answer any common questions that come along. My name is Shannon Miles. I'm part of the product marketing team here and I'll be your host today. And go to the next slide. There we go. So just a few housekeeping rules before we get started. If you have any audio issues, please make sure you're selecting the correct audio preference on the right-hand side. If you do select to use the telephone, you will need to dial in and use the access code provided. As always, we are answering questions throughout this webinar. We have a couple team members on hand to help answer questions, so please just submit those in the question tab and we'll get to those as well as try and have John go through some of those as we move along. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, as all of our webinars are, and it will be posted on the Untangle YouTube channel afterwards, and an email will be sent out tomorrow morning with the link to it so you can rewatch it or send it over to your colleagues. And just before I move on, I just want to reiterate that this is a highly technical webinar. So if you're not familiar with the Untangle solution or networking concepts, this may not be the best webinar for you to attend, as it may not make sense to you. We do have another webinar series called the Untangle 101s, which are more high-level topics. And you can always find our upcoming webinars on our website. And with that, I'll pass it over to John, and he'll get us started.
Thanks, Shannon. Thanks everyone for joining about application control. It's a pretty interesting application, and I'm going to kind of show what the differences are between application control and web filtering, and also how it works with some of the other applications. First of all, application control takes the traffic data, the SSL, the TCP connections that go across the Untangle, and then we put them in a classification engine and try to determine what application is causing this traffic. Once we identify that, we'll give it a rating and then identify that traffic from there on as that particular application. We can take a look at the Untangle right here. So as you can see, I kind of have a general setup that most people have. Application control, we have a really good classification engine that has, literally hundreds of applications that we know signatures for. As far as signatures, that means what the bits look like as they travel across the Untangle. So, and this will allow us to classify the kind of information you have. And one way to see this is actually look at the sessions viewers, and then you can actually see the applications that are being identified. So in this case, here I have some typical Microsoft telemetry data going across the network, and it's identified as Microsoft. So one thing to know about application control is that the traffic must go through the Untangle for it to be identified, which means there will be somewhat of a connection at some point because the identification doesn't get done at the point of contact. It actually has a few bits to go through before it's identified. And if you have a specific type of application but you're not sure what it would be called in this list, one of the easiest ways is to look at the session data. For example, I mean, obviously, if you go to Facebook, it's going to be the Facebook app. But if I put Facebook, I'll start my data. I'll look at my session viewer. And as you can see the Facebook data that's being done. So, for example, let's say I'm at a school. I want to make sure my students are not looking at Facebook, or I'm at an office, and there's certain I don't want my whole office spending their day on Facebook. I can go ahead and go down to Facebook. And let's see, let me find it real quick. Right here. So as you see, you have two choices between block and tar pit. I generally recommend that you use tar pit. Tar pit means we don't tell the server end or the client end, which is the user, that their connection has failed. What we do is we just say, yes, we received the data, and they get no response. So that effectively blocks the thing, and then the server doesn't think about trying to reroute. This is most crucial in trying to block VPNs or proxies, kind of like UltraServe. You want to have it tar pit, because when VPN services or external proxies like UltraServe, what they're doing is if they recognize that the session is blocked, they'll actually go and try different ports. They'll try reconfiguring their TCP connections so they look differently, and eventually they'll try to get through. So that's the advantages of using tar pit. There are cases where tar pit will actually break some applications that you're trying to, and then we recommend that you use block. So in general, go with tar pit unless you have a specific reason to use block. And so, for example, I'll go ahead and block it. So you can see I'm still here at Facebook. It's not actually closing it out. That's because I have to refresh the session. It only blocks new sessions. Let's see what's going on here. Did I save that setting? Okay, just need to refresh it. So I think in this case, what it's doing, let's take a look at what's going on with traffic. So it looks like the, so this is another key issue. So if your application is using SSL, it a lot of times can reconfigure that to look a little differently. So that's what I'll need to do is close that off and go ahead and open my browser again. Let's see here. I'm not sure why I didn't close that off. Maybe I checked the wrong one. So let's scroll down. Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. Let's try this one again. So in this case, I'm going to do block just to show you the differences. So once that saves, I can go ahead and refresh here. And this is the differences with application control with then web filter. You actually won't get a block page. It just says the connection will fail. It's kind of like if the internet was unplugged. There won't be any connection there, and the user will not get any feedback saying, oh, we don't allow Facebook. So this is some of the differences to realize on that. And then you can also go to your reporting and look at block sessions. And here you can see that Facebook was blocked by the true over here. Some applications are pretty well known. You'll notice this confidence rating. It's how much of the session matches the pattern. So there's a way, there's a way to kind of classify whether you're matching completely or you're only matching a partial of that session. That will give you an idea of how that works as far as, some applications are kind of like unknown. There's a lot of business applications that use SSL connections, but they don't use a standard header on them, so that makes it like less confident that they're going to be matched. Just something to realize it. Again, really easy to do. You just go down here and see what kind of applications you want to control. We did check a lot of flagged ones that are the most common. You can also look at different kinds of VPNs, any kind of games, things like that you can block. Again, the person will not get a block page. So if people start, calling your IT support and saying, "Hey, the internet's not working," and you ask them what happened. He says, well, I went here and its connection failed. Definitely go look at the report for blocked sessions and verify that maybe you're not getting a correct classification and it's causing a block. Or maybe you can tell them, oh, that's not allowed, and then work out the rules. One of the great things about Untangle is that we have this whole rack system where you can have different channels for different people. So in this case with application control, I can go ahead and just say, okay, I'm going to allow some people to go to Facebook and some people will not. So in this case, I'm going to use my policy manager and I'm going to create a new policy. So I'm going to allow some PCs to go to Facebook. So what I'll do is I'll create a child of the first one and apply that rule. And I'm going to look to see what my IP address of that box is, which is right here. So I'll go ahead and create a rule. And I'm going to say is if the source address is this, actually spaces there, I'm going to send it to the Facebook rack. Okay, right now I haven't really done anything because my Facebook rack is exactly the same. So I'm going to go ahead and install a different configuration of application control on my second rack. So I'll go ahead and install that. So as you see, the application control is the only one not grayed out on the second rack. That's because it's a separate instance of application control. In this case, the standard, I don't have anything blocked. So if I go back to my PC that's behind the Untangle and I try to go to Facebook, I'm able to go to Facebook. But the other people cannot. So this is the whole thing about you can actually make some applications available for some of the group behind your Untangle and make it not available for others. It makes it a really nice way to make things across. So, and again, there's just hundreds of applications that you can identify and create block rules for those.
Hey, John.
Yes.
We have a question about tar pitting. When you were in the reports section of application control, someone's asking if there's a report for tar pitting to show true or false, or is that something that would need to be a custom report that's made?
There's no identification whether tar pit was used or not. What you can do if you want to see differences is go ahead and create a rule that's maybe by tar pit, and then you could see which one actually is more effective. Because if we look at the block categories, a tar pit is the same as a block in the reporting. Don't believe we have, no. So effectively it's being blocked. So tar pit just means we provide a different response. So if it's blocked, we reset the TCP session that's coming across. So we're telling the other side, the PC on the other side, that the connection has failed. On tar pit, we're saying we received the package, but there's no response. So that's the differences between them. It's effectively blocked. So what I would suggest is always use tar pit, and unless you have a specific reason to use block. Tar pit is just far more effective, but there are cases where it accidentally blocks the wrong kind of application. because of identification. We've had a couple things. So we actually took out block back in version, I believe, 11.2. And as of 12 or 12.1, we actually put the block back in because there were some really fringe cases where block was more useful than tar pitting. Again, can't emphasize this more. Use tar pit, and now you have a specific reason to use block. Neither block nor tar pit will show any kind of message for the user. They will always get the connection failed kind of idea. So to get a little more elaborate, let me change my policy back so we're only using one rack. Okay, so what if you had like special rules that you want to do, like if you want to, so we have some kind of thing. So for example, this is kind of common way of proxies get around it. They'll actually use some known open ports like port 80, but they'll put encrypted traffic over port 80, so it's not blocked. So you could say something like, you know, port 80, and it's not an HTTPS session or SSL session. That will help block any kind of abnormalities that are coming through there. So you can create a lot of special rules using the application control to build on that, not only using the classification that's for that session, but what port they're using. Or you could even do something where, like, if it's encrypted and on port 443, allow it. And you could block any other sessions like that. And it's kind of an easy way to kind of make a more complicated rule. Again, it gets more involved when you're doing different racks for different people. So that makes it a little, you just kind of have to make sure that you use the session viewer to see that the type of traffic that's going through is being marked. And again, the policy manager, the policy will show in the policy column which rack it's actually going through and identify the kind of traffic. It's very useful when you're building these rules because you're actually seeing the real life traffic going across your box. So one part of application control is that it looks at the session and tries to identify that with the base. So it gets more complicated when you're using HTTPS or any kind of encrypted traffic because we have a general idea of what the traffic looks like, but we actually don't know what the traffic inside the encrypted payload looks like. In those cases, you want to use SSL Inspector. It's kind of like the helper app for all the other apps. SSL Inspector strips away that outside coding that's encrypting the traffic and allows all the applications to do a better job of inspecting the traffic, including the application controls. So a lot of times when you look at your sessions, they may not have identifying marks, for example, like this one. Or they'll say SSL, let me start an SSL traffic. So for example, YouTube. YouTube is actually pretty good about that. They actually put a thing, but you can see there's a lot of SSL traffic that's not fully identified. We find some instances of that. Let's go to, I think this might be a better example. I don't think that's working anymore. Let me give some examples. So there are cases where you'll see in here, instead of saying TCP SSL YouTube, it'll actually say TCP SL. That means that application control knows it's an encrypted session, but it can't tell you any more about it. And that's where the advantages of using SSL Inspector come in. So with this, it's kind of like a helper app where now it's going to strip the encryption off, and then actually application control is going to see the unencrypted session directly. So I'll have a better idea. Let's try something else here. Let's see what these sessions look like. So as you can see, the SSL section are far more there's a lot more detail to the sessions once you have SSL Inspector. It tells you exactly what's going across that particular area. So that makes it, pretty useful for, checking on these more carefully and actually having less false positives on these. So we can go through that. Let's see here. Let's go back to my application control. Again, with reporting, you can create custom reports to show, like, if you're looking for a specific thing, here we have the type of traffic we're doing. Let's look at the categories. Doing a lot of social networking. Let's look at the applications by size. We know specifically Google Play. Facebook is quite large. And then the MS Bits is generally Microsoft telemetry and updates, any kind of updates downloading. That makes it just more useful, like you can decide what you're going to start filtering out. If things are taking too much of your bandwidth, you can start limiting those and taking those things. You can also use application control with bandwidth control. So once application control identifies that, you can in turn use bandwidth control to maybe limit the amount. So maybe you allow your people to use Facebook, for example, or YouTube, but you want them to be limited like to 20% of your bandwidth, things like that. And let's see, let's take a look at any questions we have.
Hey, John, there was some people are having a little bit of confusion about the difference between web filter and application control and how they work together or differently. So can you go over that?
Sure. So web filter and application control really use completely different ways of identifying traffic. Web filter is almost 100% based on the endpoint IP and the URL that's sent over the wire. And in those cases, you actually get a block page. For example, let's say I go to playboy.com. I get a block page, and it tells me exactly why this was blocked. And it says, this particular URL, the reason, pornography is not allowed. So it's very clear. But, for example, if I go to Facebook, which is I don't have it blocked in web filter, but I have it blocked in application control, I get a connection failed because it's actually blocking the bits going across. It's not redirecting my session. It's actually just blocking the bits directly. Application control is closer to firewall than it is to web filter, even though it seems like it would be the same. So that's just some of the key differences there. It's a little less user-friendly to the people behind the firewall because they really don't have a reason why it failed. They just know the connection failed and they need to do something else. So with web filter, if they are blocked, they know that the firewall is blocking them, and they can act appropriately. Like if they know they're allowed there and it's blocked by the wrong reason, they can actually click and say, oh, I need to get to this. again, it's just a more clear way of doing it but for a lot of applications, it's almost impossible to block them with web filter based on either the URL or the things. For example, like FaceTime. If you're trying to block FaceTime on your network, they have so many different URLs they use, and there's so many IP addresses. It's better to identify it with the type of TCP sessions that are going through by classifying them than it is by trying to block it by the in location. So just to reiterate this, application control is based on patterns of the data going across the firewall, while web filter is based more on the URL or the endpoint IP. It's kind of the differences there. Let's see, any other questions we have right here? Windows 10 telemetry. They're actually working on some rules to add to that. We should be seeing that soon. It is not in this version, but we do see something coming out. The problem is so difficult with Windows 10 telemetry. It's also part of their Windows updates. They actually use the same servers, the same pattern to go across that. So it's very difficult to block that completely.
Hey, John. There was one question about the difference between application control and application control Lite. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. So the ideas behind them are almost identical. The key difference is with the paid version application control, you get a huge library of known patterns where that are rigorously tested. They're constantly updated and going through. So if we look at application Lite, let's see, I'm going to have to install that. So we're going to take that out. So we can get application Lite. Oh, unfortunately, this machine already got it on. So let me refresh this. So with application control, you're actually going to have to add all those rules in manually. There's some places you can go. We provide help on the wiki. So application control Lite actually starts with no rules at all. So if you go to the wiki and you read a little bit about our signatures, we actually have a location here where you can download all the rules. They're very old. They might not work well, and you're going to have to do some work to kind of develop your rules. So just summarizing this, application control Lite is do-yourself signatures. Either you create the signatures yourself or you find locations to get those. Application control paid, we provide the signatures and we constantly update those. So that's the main difference. Oh, here it is. I was just missing that. Let me just refresh the screen. It should appear. So yeah, if we look at application control and you look at signatures, when you install it, it will have no rules. So what you have to do is either create your own rule based on something that you find, or use the rules that we have up on the wiki that you can download. So that's the two main differences on those. Let's see here. Put the application control back on. Let's see, any other questions? Tor browsers, we actually have a setting for that. Like almost everything, it's kind of an arms race So probably one of the most notorious is UltraSurf. Anything that uses kind of a proxy type browsing, um, we'll develop rules and are to catch those, and we'll find their new signatures, and then they just need to change a few things in their next release, and the signatures won't match. So you have to kind of, it's a constant arm race between the two. I believe Tor is in here. Yeah, there you go. So you have your to block the Tor. Again, there's have some caution on that. It's not 100%. As revisions come out, it may get by it may not. We always take a look to see how effective these rules are, and then try to develop rules to countermand that in the next release. So it's a constant arms race on that. Let's take a couple of questions. Yeah, so if you want to control Facebook, I actually did this with my own kids, to the chagrin of them. What the best thing to do is, like, they could access Facebook on Friday through Sunday, but not during the week. So what I did was create a policy rule. So you create a policy rule and you just say, so I say, let's see here. So I just said, like kids rule, and then I would just add a particular time of day that I would allow them to go there, days of the week. So I would say, see, Sunday, Friday, and Saturday, they could use the Facebook rec. And then with that rule, I wouldn't have to manage it, and they would just get cut off at a certain amount of time. Let's see what else. Any other questions? See, without SSL Inspector, would it be possible to display the cert issue or wherever possible? So with SSL Inspector, if you're not using SSL Inspector, it's of course going to use the certificate from the endpoint. If you're, the session is blocked, so it's not like an SSL. I think he's referring to, like, if you don't have SSL Inspector and the certificate's set up, and you go to a block domain. Let's try blocking YouTube. Let's try blocking YouTube, for example, in web filter. So go down to the bottom. Let's just say video. Probably streaming. Yeah, here we go. I'm not too sure if that will block it. So if we go to HTTPS, it is blocked. So a lot of people don't like that. They get certificate error when they go to the block page. But for application control, you don't get that certificate error because you don't get a block page. It's just the connection is failed. It's literally the way application control, it's that particular bits do not make it to the internet. They're just like disconnected. And the browser does not get any response that, oh, you need to retry because those bits got reset. No, it's like, yeah, thank you, I received the bits. And it doesn't say anything, and they don't get a reply that they're waiting for. So the browser will assume that the connection's failed. Yeah, that's the nice thing about application control. It doesn't it's not based on the endpoint. So many services now are based on content servers that either URL or endpoint IP is not a valid way of blocking it. With application control, you can actually block by the type of bits that are going across the network. So one person was asking, they want to block Amazon Video, but they don't want to block going to Amazon itself. So again, it's much easier to do. What you do, the best thing to do is create that data to Amazon Video. For example, right here, I have Amazon Instant Video. So I can block that. I'm going to go ahead and use Tar-Pit. So now I can still go to Amazon, but the video doesn't work. And that makes it much easier. So again, you can block those areas. These are ads, so they're not considered video. But if you go to the video section, let's see here. Not cooperating today. Let's see here. Where's the video? Right here. So we try the video, and that's the huge parts of application control that's far more powerful than web filter. Is that you're able to block by the type of bits that are going across the network. And again, this all works better if you have SSL Inspector on. It's just a much more detailed inspection of it. Let's see, a couple more questions and we'll go and finish off the slide here. Let's see. Yeah, incognito browsing, really that's not any kind of hidden way or anything like that. They're just not saving the data to a local disk. That doesn't encrypt your browsing or anything on the network. So a lot of people have kind of a mistake on the way that works. There's not any kind of hidden or encrypted traffic when you use that mode. It's just not saving anything locally to your disk. Okay, so we'll go back here. Again, sometimes we'll say, why is this application not blocked even though I marked it? Again, I can't emphasize the importance of using the session viewer. This has all the information about your data going across your network. Take a look at it, see it first if it's identified correctly. If it's not, figure out why it's not identified. And most of the forums were pretty helpful, especially if you do screenshots. You can say, why is this traffic not identified? We can definitely help you out there. And then also, why is application X blocked? Sometimes applications are, not properly categorized, and you might have to develop some rules to cover that. And then I covered about SSL sessions. Definitely on the forums, there's 4 or 5 of our engineers, quite a bit of the support staff are on the forums. Sales is on the forums too if you have any kind of questions about your licensing or your current account, what you have on there. I can't emphasize we're pretty responsive when we're on there. You should be able to get an answer within an hour or so. So it's kind of a quick way of doing it and pretty easy to get support that way. Let's see. Anyways, that's the end. I hope we kind of covered your questions.
Hey, John, I'll take it over. I know we got some questions coming in, but just want to reiterate if a lot of people are having some configuration or installation questions about these certain applications. So if you need some assistance, we do offer professional services, so just give us a call. Or as always, you can contact sales, or as John mentioned, the forums as well as the wiki has a bunch of our technical documentation. Do you want to go to the next slide, John? So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but on our Twitter page, we are doing a sweepstakes. Sysadmin Day is July 29th, which is next Friday, and in honor of all these sysadmins that work hard to keep our network secure, we are doing a sweepstakes for this week and next week. You can win a $10 Amazon gift card by simply just retweeting the tweet that we tweet out every morning. So check us out on Twitter, and you could win an Amazon gift card. Next slide, John. And yeah, I see some other questions coming in. If we didn't get to your question, or if you have a very specific question in terms of your setup, please just hit us up on the forums. As we mentioned, we have a ton of resources available for you, including our support and sales team and the wiki and forums. We do have a few more webinars coming up. We're trying to get through all of our applications to give everyone knowledge on how to set these up correctly and utilize them to the fullest. So our next one is on the WAN balancer and WAN failover application next month. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we do Untangle 101s, which are more high-level topics, and we're doing an NG Firewall for schools. So if you're a admin at a school or know someone that is admin at a school, this might be a great webinar for you to attend, just to learn what and make sure you're not forgetting anything that you should be doing, and some good configurations for that. And in September, we're doing Captive Portal and dealing with the bring your own devices issue that happens to occur everywhere you go now. So we hope that you found this webinar very useful. John, thanks so much for the great demo and explanation. If we didn't get to your question again, please just hit us up on the forums or email us. We hope to see you next time. Thanks, guys.